graduating class of 2021, to your families and friends, to all those who have walked alongside you, especially the ancestors, in those moments of contemplation and now celebration. We marvel at your resilient spirit with the capacity to adapt in the face of adversity, compounded by these unprecedented times. Let me officially welcome you to the Multicultural Graduation Ceremonies, Georgetown University. We will begin our program with an opening address from esteemed faculty and Interim Dean of Georgetown College, Dr. Sawika Colbert, followed by a student-led invocation. And then each ceremony will feature a student speaker, an alumni speaker, and finally a student viewing of names. We will close with a benediction from Reverend Ebony Grissom, Protestant chaplain. We express our gratitude to all of you, our speakers, the Center for Multicultural Equity and Access, especially Mr. Obella Obo. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Sawika Colbert, and I am the Interim Dean of Georgetown College at Georgetown University and the Idle Family Professor of African American Studies and Performing Arts. It is with great joy that I come to celebrate the class of 2021. When I returned to the Hilltop in 2013, I came having learned the art of academic discipline. But Georgetown opened me up to the essential part of being a faculty member, the call to care. Georgetown is a place that cultivates social justice and ideas. And from my time in graduate school, I learned that the best social justice practices and ideas emerge in community. In the classroom and in affinity spaces, we build community and the basis for learning and social transformation. The connection between care as investment and as service distinguishes learning at Georgetown and resonates across all of our areas of study, from the sciences to the social sciences, to the arts, to the humanities, and to interdisciplinary studies. Each year we come together to honor our graduates as they have excelled, innovated, and transformed Georgetown. Although this year we gather via video, it is because we must gather by video that holding this ceremony is important, because this year's class has excelled in the midst of the extraordinary, world-changing circumstances of a pandemic and the ongoing persistence of racism, America's troubling pre-existing condition. Founded in 1789, Georgetown has weathered several crises. Slavery and the Civil War nearly closed the university, the Great Depression and World War II, the civil rights, women's rights, and anti-war movements that transformed the landscape of higher education. And now, the COVID-19 pandemic, insurrection, and persistent racialized violence. In the last year, you have moved from in-person to online learning, created online communities, advocated for accessible and equitable classroom environments, and learned new skills and competencies that will continue to inform your development in the months and years to come. Although I have joked with the theater and performance studies majors that Georgetown is the one place where you can come home again, when you left in March 2020, that may be the last time some of you are ever on campus. Although I hope you return, my greater desire is that you begin the next chapter of your lives knowing that what you learned here is animated, enriched, and deepened by the relationships you developed here. The connection between care as investment and as service distinguishes learning at Georgetown and has deeply changed the work that you will do in the world. Your life will not be linear, predictable, or certain. The last year has certainly taught us about uncertainty. Although uncertainty may engender fear and anxiety, I invite you to the possibility that it also opens you up to the freedom to follow your heart's desires. You do not have to choose between following your passions and earning a living. You just have to figure out how to put the pieces of your life together and trust you are part of something larger than you or our wildest dreams. Thinking about Georgetown today versus the Georgetown of my undergraduate years reminds me of the necessity to be ever vigilant in helping Georgetown become the best version of itself. Coming together in this collective project, we are enough to transform the world day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, if we are willing to do the work. That work includes learning everything you possibly can, sharing the resources you have, and growing with others, drawing on the wisdom of those that came before, working towards a common good, and building relationships that will sustain you through the battles and victories yet to come. You were made to change the world, and it's up to you to do it. It has been a privilege to build with you over the last 4 years, and I look forward to what is yet to come for the class of 2021. Congratulations, and Hoya Saxa.
Hi folks, Saham here. So grateful to be in y'all's presence today to celebrate Black joy, Black excellence here with you all today. And whether I'm the first, the 10th, or 100th person to say this, I wanted to say one more time, congratulations on graduating from Georgetown University. I think it's such an amazing feat. I feel like I'm still grappling with these feelings, but just know that you deserve to be here. You deserve to get this degree because you have worked hard these past couple of years to get to this point. So congratulations one more time. But I also want to spend this time to also reflect a little bit, right? Like, this has been an unconventional year. Like, little did freshman year Saham know that I would be Zoom schooling or Zooming through school. But at the end, we are still getting this degree and graduating, and that's such a big success. And this past year and a half has been difficult, right? It's been with the pandemic and the loss of so many Black lives. Our community has been hurting, and I think it's important to acknowledge that, right? Because it's like we're grieving and also being students at the same time. And through the struggles, there also has been triumphs that we have accomplished, right? The triumphs that have led us to this very moment. So I want, if you would sit with me, close your eyes, keep it open, whatever you prefer, and let's just like go down memory lane a little bit and just let's reflect and think about who we were and where we are now, right? So I want us to first think about our first memory at Georgetown, right? Whether that be moving into your freshman dorm and going down to Leo's for the first time, or being part of a pre-orientation group and interacting with brand new people, or if you're part of the Community Scholars Program, that memories too, and just sit with it, right? Take it in, think about the feelings and the people that you were surrounded with, right? How did it feel? What were you doing? Right? I also next want us to think about the people at Georgetown, right? I feel like Georgetown's a heart university. I know that y'all know that it's a struggle, right? But who are the people that you've interacted with that has made Georgetown this experience for you, that has made you who you are to this day, right? Whether that be friends that you met in a classroom or in clubs, or maybe it's adults that you met through centers like the CMEA or GSP or the Women's Center, right? Or professors maybe. Like, who are these people who've become part of your foundation to help you grow and become this person, right? So think about that for a second, right? I also want us to think about the struggles that we've been through, right? Because I feel like it's important to acknowledge that life isn't like perfect, isn't linear, right? Like, we just don't go from point A to point B, right? We don't go from starting to graduating and everything being up, right? There are ups and downs in life, and I feel like it's important to acknowledge the struggles in tangent with the triumphs, right? Because it's like, even though you've been through a lot, you've also accomplished so much, and I think that's important to like recognize, right? Because y'all did that. Y'all are gonna be getting that diploma, leaving Georgetown, and gonna do so many amazing things in the future. And I'm so excited for every single one of us to do that, right? So, once again, I wanted to say that I'm so, so proud of every single one of y'all for going through these past couple years and triumphing, right? Like to get this degree. And once again, saying congrats and Hoya Saxa.
Growing up, I identified most closely with my ethnic identity. And if you couldn't tell from my Barong Tagalog, today I proudly identify as Filipino. I grew up in a predominantly Black, Latina, and Southeast Asian community, and so the term PWI, or predominantly white institution, was a term I hadn't really known about until Hoya Saxa Weekend. And so for the folks who don't know, Hoya Saxa Weekend is a prospective students weekend for students of color. And so they kept throwing around the term during the weekend, and I was like, what are you talking about? It'll be just like home, kind of like what's new. And so then I actually stepped into Georgetown during a normal academic year, and I felt like the immediate culture shock, and I was like, damn, this school is hella white. And so the lack of visibility was not just particular to the students, though. It was also the lack of visibility for API folks within physical spaces and Georgetown's curriculum. And so for some students, the feelings of invisibility characterizes their entire academic experience. And so I'm very privileged to have grown up in a community that looks like me. With that said, it meant that the imposter syndrome hit much harder when I first got into Georgetown. And so there were two clubs that I gravitated towards in hopes of finding some semblance of community in my now new home away from home. And I found that in Club Filipino and the Asian Pacific Islander Leadership Forum. So my reasoning for those two organizations were simple, because one, I wanted to find folks who I could relate with on a cultural level, and two, I'd never known what it meant to be a part of a pan-ethnic organization. And so I'd like to specifically talk about the latter because it informs so much of how I've come to understand what it means to be Asian American today. As we like to call her, the kind and welcoming face of APILF, Jennifer Suyanto first invited me to join ASA, and I was like real impressed because I was like, damn, I can't really say no to her. Like, she's so nice. And then later after, we'd leave ASA to join APILF, the Asian Pacific Islander Leadership Forum, which was designed as a space for students to engage in issues and advocacy revolving around Asian Americans. And so it's in this space that I learned what it meant to organize, to think critically and radically, and above all else, what it means to be an Asian American. Because on a superficial level, we gotta have to premise that to be Asian Americans is not just to love boba, not just to love crazy rich Asians, and it is certainly not to be an active poster in subtle Asian traits, because all of that can certainly be enjoyed and appreciated. But the Asian American identity is steeped in such a rich history that deals with the broader forces of racism, colonialism, imperialism, just to name a bit off of the long list. And so to be Asian American is to be rendered invisible in the discourse of race. It's to be orientalized and to be viewed as the Western other. And it's to feel like you're neither at home with your family's country of origin, nor in the country you've known your entire life. And so I've been thinking about what it means to organize under a pan-ethnic label as large as API, a label in itself that serves to both include and exclude numerous identities under a single acronym. And so how can we strive for this imagination and this dream of collective justice for our community when we're not as easily monolithic as our label puts out to be? And so truthfully, I don't know the answer, and I challenge you all to think radically about what our future as a community is bound to be. The pan-ethnic label Asian American was born out of the student activism of the Third World Liberation Front, in which BIPOC students stood in solidarity with one another to fight for their rightful place in university curriculum. And so perhaps then it's in the act of coalition building, not only internally within the API community, but also with our Black and Brown siblings, that we're able to unite as a community. At Georgetown University, student organizers have been pushing for an API affinity space and Asian American Studies program, to name a few, both physical and ideological spaces where our community can feel like we belong. All the while, our students must wrestle with the injustices that occur domestically, such as the shootings in Atlanta, and abroad, such as the exploitations of farmers in India. But we maintain a critical hope throughout all of this physical work and emotional labor in hopes that our future generations will be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. When we are able to center our most marginalized communities, only then can we achieve our vision of collective liberation. And as you graduate, I hope that we can step forward into a world with a radical mindset and an unshakable will to do better for our communities, because our future depends on it.
Hello, Georgetown class of 2021. My name is Lana Bouchans, SFS 2011. First off, let me thank CMEA Director, Ms. Charlene Brown McKenzie, for inviting me to deliver this keynote address at the Asian Pacific Islander and Desi American Heritage Ceremony as your distinguished alumni speaker. I've been uniquely shaped by my Asian American experience, specifically my Vietnamese American experience. That's what I want to talk to you about today, and how I honor and respect my heritage in my career and continue to empower Asian American voices. I was raised in Southern California by two very hardworking South Vietnamese refugees. If you were to ask me who my heroes were growing up, I tell you without hesitation, they were and still are my mom and dad. My father worked very long hours at the Los Angeles International Airport as an aircraft mechanic, and my mother still works at a nail salon as a manicurist. Both my parents wanted the very best for their children and pushed my brother and me to be as American as possible. Though I learned to speak Vietnamese at home and celebrated Vietnamese holidays, it was not until I was much older, when I first came to Georgetown in 2007, that I began to learn more about the Vietnamese diaspora in the US and the struggles in my very own community. While at Georgetown, and since leaving the Hilltop, I've been exposed to many new and different Asian American stories. These experiences have steadily changed how I engage these issues with my colleagues, my friends, and in my own community. Currently, I'm a senior analyst at the Department of State Bureau of Diplomatic Security, the law enforcement and security arm of the State Department. I work on improving how we provide oversight and support to security programs at our 275 embassies and consulates overseas. In my work, I've had the privilege to represent the US in several countries across almost every continent. At times, while overseas, I inevitably will be asked if I'm representing China or another Asian country. This conversation has now become a part of a regular speech I practiced and delivered dozens of times. I'm Vietnamese American, I explain. My parents came from Vietnam, but I was born in California. Almost all my Asian American colleagues have experienced a form of this question about their Americanness. It's something I know I will personally continue to face both overseas and even here at home. The feeling of being other, or being considered somehow not American enough, simply by the way I look. Although this is very disheartening, I choose to not let these experiences negatively affect the way I live my life or diminish the pride I have as an Asian American. In my career, I believe the most effective way to promote diversity and inclusion is to underscore that it's in fact a strength. One of America's greatest strengths even. I have helped to improve the Vietnamese language skills of my foreign service colleagues and even given them tips on addressing Vietnamese delegations arriving to the US. Given Vietnam's Francophone history, I learned French from an early age and used my French language skills to personally support security operations and programs in embassies in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, and in Paris, France. I strongly believe that Asian Americans offer valuable insights that are informed by our unique experiences and backgrounds, especially in public service. In addition to my work at the State Department, I believe firmly in mentorship and its role in helping others. Mentorship plays a large part in my leadership ethos. It's been my personal mission to increase the number of Asian Americans working in the federal government. Today, Asian Americans make up only 6.5% of the U.S. government workforce, and even smaller numbers in senior ranks. Every year since I graduated from Georgetown, I've sought out or been connected to Asian American college students from across the country that I choose to mentor, especially those who are interested in working in public service careers. To those who feel like you are too young to be a mentor, I say to you that you're never too young. What you have to offer, your perspectives, your knowledge, your insight is important and will positively affect the direction of someone's life or career. Especially in times like these where we are trying to come back together and build meaningful connections with each other, mentorship matters more than ever. Lastly, I want to remind the class of 2021 that after you leave the hilltop, remember that you are the authors of your own story. Your Asian American story, your Pacific Islander American story, your Desi American story, your American story. We all read the news. We all know friends, family, and community members who are experiencing a very challenging period in their lives where we battle a global pandemic and at the same time fight anti-Asian sentiment in all its forms. But today I want to emphasize that you can make a real and lasting impact in your community. You can choose to lead with what makes you unique, without fear that it makes you any less American. Being leaders in the Asian, Pacific Islander, and Desi American communities, you have the power to lift voices, to be an advocate for healing, for change, for the young heroes in your life who will someday write their own story. Thank you again for having me, and congratulations again to the Georgetown class of 2021.
Hi everyone! For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tiki Manuel Hodge. I'm a senior in the SFS studying culture and politics, and I'm coming to you not so live from my childhood bedroom in San Diego, California. Words can't express how humbling it has been to have been asked to give this speech at Harambe. I'm eerily reminded of offering some final remarks at our Hoya Saxa weekend in 2017, and so it just feels like we've come full circle, and I'm continually grateful to be able to share space with y'all. And while I don't know what you may have wanted me to say, I have to be very honest about where my head is at right now. As I sit, the Derek Chauvin murder trial of George Floyd has just culminated in a guilty verdict on all counts. And in that same time, 15-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant was murdered by police in Columbus, Ohio. While I won't make assumptions about where we'll be in the next days or weeks or months, I think we need to be very honest about where we are now. This year has challenged us in ways that seem near incomprehensible. In the midst of a global pandemic that has killed millions, the lives of Black people worldwide exist still in such a state of precarity and violence that it is often hard for me to imagine how things might change. We are threatened when defending ourselves in our own homes, when running on public roads, and when simply driving with air fresheners in our cars. In the midst of all this loss, it seems almost silly to consider mourning the loss of an in-person senior year. And yet, I think the mourning must be done. Personally, I initially tried to force myself into ambivalence about senior year and graduation. Something in me knew early on that an in-person senior year would not be in the cards for us at this moment. And yet, the reality of not having been able to spend our final year together with the people we've grown up with fills me with an uncontrollable amount of rage and sorrow. Part of it is the knowledge that I'll never know what type of friendships might have blossomed our senior year, who might have reconciled, and how our last year at Georgetown would have been spent. Another part is the realization that I'll never have this opportunity again. Even for those of us who will go on to further our education, we'll never again have the experience of being 18, confessing our undying love to a group of girls at Black House, whose names we've completely forgotten when we see them months later in ICC auditorium. I'll miss it, and therefore I mourn. As I've come to understand through this extended period of physical isolation and distance, mourning is a paradox of sitting with, holding, and moving beyond grief. It's this strange mixture of trying to tune into your immediate surroundings while also knowing that feeling often takes time and patience to fully manifest. I offer this explanation of mourning to emphasize the ways in which we must continue to hold space for ourselves and one another. I don't think people were ever meant to ingest all this grief, and yet here we are looking back on an entire year of online university. Now, at the end of this ordeal, I want us to take time to rest and to mourn that and those which have been lost. Holding this sadness, this grief, and weariness about the past year, and even the prospect of an immediately difficult future, is necessary to what comes next after graduation. After graduation, we start manifesting. I remember my first visit to Georgetown during Hoya Saxa weekend, and for the first time hearing the Georgetown cliche telling students to go forth and set the world on fire. It didn't occur to me until later on to ask, in maybe Baldwinian fashion, whether the world we were supposed to be going into was already on fire and what that might mean, but I guess that doesn't matter because I'd much rather think in terms of ecosystems. That is to say, I'd rather think about what it means to create ways of living and being. Nearly every conversation and experience I've had with y'all, my peers, has helped me understand very clearly the ways I want to live, how I want to love and be loved, and what type of environment I need to prosper, to thrive. We've organized for more sexual assault prevention and mental health resources, organized for reparations from slavery, and have continued to push for a campus environment that is dynamic and changing enough to support the needs of current and future students. It's this spirit of community which has guided us throughout our 4 years on campus. Within this spirit, however, lies the grief, the anger, and the mourning we've held and passed through in order to continue our work. Out of all our grief and frustration, we have borne and imagined ways of living otherwise. We've mourned in order to create. And now, at the end of our 4 years, I ask us to consider how we can persist in our imagining. As I admitted earlier, I don't have the answer to how things might change, but I know that collectively, in community, we can articulate a world that meets the needs, wants, and desires of all of us. So I mourn my experience of rolling 10 freshmen deep into a Villa A party. I mourn the late night conversations waiting in the line at Bulldog. I mourn the spring darties. I mourn Georgetown Day. And ultimately, I even mourn the experiences with friends I had hoped to have during our senior year. I hold these memories close. I pass through them, and I use these emotions to continue envisioning a world where these things can happen without the threat of racist state violence. I hope we can do this work together in post-grad, as we've done since we gathered those 4 short years ago. Thank y'all so much, and don't let this be goodbye.
Welcome President John J. DeJoya, faculty, CMEA staff, and especially Mrs. Charlene Brown McKenzie for extending the invitation, friends, families, and the illustrious graduating class of 2021. What an exciting time of year for you all. I'm deeply humbled and elated to deliver the keynote address for the virtual Harambe Multicultural Graduation Ceremony. I know this was not the traditional ceremony that you all expected. What matters is that you all are here and accomplished one of the biggest milestones in your lives, which is graduating from one of the top prestigious universities in the country, Georgetown University, during a pandemic. It doesn't get any better than that. Hoya Blacksa. Today, I stand before you, also rocking my class of 2014 Kente graduation stole, to speak with you all. First and foremost, my name is Dr. Diana Sainville Robinson. I'm a proud class of 2014 graduate at Georgetown University. I majored in English and minored in sociology. Shout out to all my English and sociology folks. During my time at Georgetown, I was a track and field athlete. And once again, shout out to all my student athletes because I know being a student first, then an athlete second at Georgetown was extremely challenging. I was also part of the Black Student Alliance, Caribbean Culture Circle, GU Sisters for Christ, and served as a 2-term president of Georgetown University Women of Color. I was pretty active on campus. After I graduated from Georgetown, I received my Master's of Science in Urban Education from the University of Pennsylvania and Doctor of Education in Educational Leadership from Temple University. I'm a proud wife of a Georgetown alum. Black love and Hoya love still exists. Moreover, at the age of 27, I became the founding high school principal of Legacy College Preparatory High School located in Bronx, New York. Lastly, I'm a proud member of the best sorority in the world, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Enough about me, y'all, because I'm here for you all. Wow, we are finally here and you all are making history as we speak. You all should be extremely proud of accomplishing this milestone. On behalf of the Black alum of Georgetown University, we are all extremely proud of you. I remember like it was yesterday. I was the first in my family to go to college, and my family drove me all the way from New York to Washington, D.C. I was extremely nervous because this was the first time I was going to be away from my family for a very long time. I remember my family helped me settle in on Harbin 7 and told me, Diana, we are praying for you and you got this. To be quite honest, I didn't know what to expect at Georgetown. During my time at on the hilltop, I learned so much about the world around me and who I was as a person. You won't realize how much memories you have created until it's all over and time to move on to the next chapter of your life. Today, as you begin the next chapter of your life, always remember where you came from. You're not who you are without the values that were instilled in you either by your parents, family, siblings, friends, staff, or professor. Some of you will be attending graduate school this fall, starting a new job, taking some time off for yourself, which is totally fine, still looking for employment, and etc. Whatever you do, don't be afraid to fail. I have failed so many times physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Each time I failed, I tried again. I received so many no's in life, but I knew one day I was going to finally get a yes. Never give up on something that is destined for you. It's important to take risks and try new things. When one door closes, you already know another door will open. Life is a marathon and definitely not a sprint. Another lesson I've learned is to cherish your friends at Georgetown. Your college friends will indeed be your lifelong friends. I will have not gotten through some obstacles in life without the support of my Georgetown friends. Your friends at Georgetown eventually become part of your family. It's important to stay connected and always check in on each other. It's a beautiful thing to have a powerful circle of educated Black college students as your friends. The relationships and bonds you have created will last forever, and I promise you that. Till this day, my Georgetown friends and I stay connected and laugh about our memories on campus, cherish every moment. Last but not least, post graduation you will come across challenges. You might be tested in your graduate studies or at work. You might still need to prove to your white counterparts that you are intelligent and deserve a seat at the table. Despite any challenges you might come across, no one can take away your Georgetown degree. You let the world know that you worked hard for this degree and made it through. No one will believe in you as much as you do. Believe that you matter. Take what you've learned from the hilltop in order to make a difference in the lives of other people. Once you graduate from Georgetown, your work is not done. The pandemic has shaken up the status quo and laid bare of a lot of country's deepest problems, from economic inequality to ongoing racism. I am proud that Georgetown stands in solidarity with all the social justice movements across the United States. We stand against racism, police brutality, and other racial disparities in our criminal justice system. Graduates, the time is now. As future leaders and change agents of this world, don't be afraid. America's gone through tough times before, such as slavery, civil war, diseases, the Great Depression, and each time we came out stronger. Usually because a new generation of educated Black graduates like you all learn from past mistakes and figure out how to make things better. In order to make this world a better place, let's continue to speak out against the injustices in our country. Justice for Breonna Taylor, Ma'Khia Bryant, Dante Wright, and anyone whose lives has been taken through acts of racism, injustice in this country, because Black lives matter. Once you graduate from Georgetown, let's continue to come together as one and not be divided as a community. Our voices is our power. So my graduates, it's time to enter the next phase of your life, which is adulthood. You all are ready because you are Georgetown made. Congratulations, class of 2021, and keep making Georgetown proud.
Good evening, everyone. For those I have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Arisaid Gonzalez Porras. I use she, ella pronouns. First, I wanted to say congratulations to all the members of the class of 2021. I know we spent the last year and a half of Georgetown behind a screen. However, I'm grateful to still have the opportunity to celebrate this milestone. Second, I want us to take a moment to take a deep breath. This was a challenging year. Not only are we still living through a global pandemic, but many of us took on additional responsibilities for our families. We continue to witness violence and injustice against our Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian communities. I want to acknowledge that pain, anger, fear, frustration, sadness, and any other emotion you experienced this past year and are still feeling. I want you to know that you are not alone, and today is a testament to that. I want to honor our families, friends, loved ones who are here today to celebrate with us. I also want to honor loved ones who have passed away. We are here today close to graduating because of them. I know for me, my family has been my biggest motivation to get here. I'm not sure if my peers would agree with me, but Georgetown was not a walk in the park, but we made it to the end. As graduation day approaches, I've been reflecting on my time on the hilltop. It got me thinking about when my parents dropped me off at the airport freshman year. I was scared to death of moving 3,000 miles away from home. I wanted my parents to come with me so badly because I didn't want to do this alone. Except my choice of going to Georgetown had sacrifices, and that was one of them. With a heavy heart and a knot in my throat, I gave them a super strong goodbye hug, grabbed my 2 suitcases, shout out to Southwest for those 2 free bags, and made my way through the airport. As cliche as it may sound, from that point on, my life changed forever. Georgetown and DC were not like anything I had ever experienced. In Arizona, I grew up only knowing and feeling fear. For the first time in my life, I felt free and safe. Freshman year was the first time I publicly came out as undocumented. It was also the first time I had found community. And for that, I have to thank many of you, especially my roommates over the years, Jessica, Chelly, Jen, Janet, and especially Anai, who became my partner in justice and the person who was by my side through everything. And I do mean everything. From my hardest moments at Georgetown were also the moments I felt the solidarity and love from communities I'm proud to be a part of. Those include the Latinx community, GSP, CMEA, Undocu Hoyas, and HFIR, and so many more. I felt the love with the countless messages of support I received after a white student thought it would be funny to make an ICE joke. I felt a sense of belonging when people showed up the day of the DACA walkout, when we shut down the streets and chanted all the way to the Supreme Court. I felt unconditional support and love when Anai and I got the 100 signatures to get on the GUSA ballot within the hour. These are only a few memories of many. When I look back at my time at Georgetown, I'm going to remember our collective power and our collective resilience. As we prepare to enter the new chapters of our lives, I encourage you to take the time to reflect on your time at Georgetown, because we are graduating from an institution that was not built for us. Regardless of your next steps after Georgetown, you should be proud of yourself. I hope you know that you can count on me for anything. This is around the time where I tell you to go light the world on fire. But in all seriousness, we are destined for greatness, and don't you forget it. Thank you for sharing this virtual space with me. It was an honor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elisa Cervantes Hamilton, and I graduated from the college in the class of 2006. And I am deeply honored to be speaking with all of you this evening. Tonight, I'm going to give you 3 small pieces of advice. But before I get into all of that, I want to start by saying, congratulations, class of 2021. Wow, what an accomplishment. You are earning your college degree, but not are you only earning your college degree, but you're earning it from Georgetown University, one of the best universities in the world. And not only are you earning your degree from one of the best universities in the world, but you're doing it during a pandemic. This is unbelievable. And I hope that each and every one of you realizes what an accomplishment this is, and that you're proud of yourselves. That said, that actually takes me into my first piece of advice for each and every one of you, and that is believe in yourself, have confidence, and own your strengths. So I'm going to start out by telling you that one of your strengths is that for each and every one of you, when you are faced with an obstacle, you do not shrink from it. you overcome. And I know this because you are graduates from Georgetown University of the class of 2021. You graduated during a pandemic. And the truth is that we don't know much about what the world is going to be like after COVID. Everything is changing. But one thing we do know is that employers are looking for people who can work productively, efficiently, and effectively in the virtual world. And all of you actually have cold, hard proof that that is something you're capable of doing. You may not have enjoyed working virtually in your senior year, but you did it and you excelled at it. And that's why you're here now. So I hope that each and every one of you takes that with you. And when a potential employer asks you about an obstacle you've overcome or about strengths, that you can talk about that. And then you understand that that is tremendous. You each sat through hours of lectures this year. You had to synthesize that information and write essays. Some of you wrote a thesis, and most of you probably had to take final exams all virtually. That is a level of intensity that most of us that have been working virtually this year have not had to achieve. So really own that, be proud of it, and understand that that is a tremendous strength. My second piece of advice to each of you is to be open-minded to opportunities that come your way in the next few years. I think that for many of us, particularly in the Latinx community, it's really hard for us to leave home. I know for me, I came from San Diego, and it was really difficult to leave my family, leave my friends, leave my community. But I did it because I believe that Georgetown was going to help me become the person I needed to be so that I could go home and serve my community. And I think that it's probably similar for many of you. Many of us have that dream. And sometimes when we have a dream like that and we have that mentality, it's easy to be kind of narrow in our focus. We have this idea of what our path looks like, and we kind of look at opportunities, and if they don't fall into that path, we kind of just push them aside. And the truth is that you never really know what you're going to get from an opportunity. And sometimes there's things that come up on our path that don't seem like they fit, but then they ended up being the best thing we could have ever done. We just didn't see it coming. And one example is after I graduated from law school, I was offered a position in a large private firm. And that really confused me because that was not why I went to law school. That's not what I wanted to do with my degree. But I actually spoke with a Jesuit from Georgetown. So side note, use all of your resources at Georgetown, the Jesuits, professors, friends, alumni, reach out and talk to people about life decisions. And this Jesuit actually, he helped me discern my path, and I ended up accepting the job and worked there. And I don't still work there, but that job was so critical to me launching my legal career. I don't think I would be where I am now if I hadn't started there. And so I met people that helped form me and mold me into the lawyer that I am today. I was given resources that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And I was also able to open the door for other people who look like me. So I just wanted to urge all of you to have an open mind. My last piece of advice to all of you is a reminder that you are Georgetown. We are Georgetown. And I know that at times it didn't feel like it. It didn't always feel like it to me, but I'm telling you right now, it's true. We are Georgetown. We are Hoyas. And what does it mean to be a Hoya? Yes, of course, it means that we are what rocks. I mean, absolutely. But beyond that, it means that we are men and women. We are individuals for others. Do not forget that. As you rise in your careers and in your lives, which you inevitably will. And I can say that for a fact, because again, you are Georgetown graduates of the class of 2021. Nothing can stop you. You are brilliant and hardworking. And so you will rise. And as you do, please do not forget to turn around, reach back, and lift others up. It is what we do. It is who we are. And with that, actually, in that vein, I would like to share that this past year, I've been working with a group of other Latinx alumni, and we are actually creating a Latinx alumni group. And the mission of our group is to create a network of Latinx alumni so that we can support one another, so that we can socialize, we can get to know each other, we can educate one another and be familia, really. And so that's one part of our mission. But the other part is that we really want to also support undergraduates. So some of you may actually recognize my face from some of the programming that we did this past year. We're going to continue to do programming every year. This is something that we're going to do. And I hope that you guys will join me now that you are graduating. And so I am going to say congratulations. I'm going to close with wishing you the best of luck, but I'm also going to close by saying that I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you on the other side as you join me as a Georgetown alum. So thank you and best of luck. Congratulations.
God of many names, we bless you. Thank you for this opportunity to celebrate these, your gifts. Thank you for these students, graduates, who you've entrusted to our care. On the hilltop, they learned to be persons for others. Now they are persons for the world. You all devoted yourselves to building authentic community, sharpening your scholastic prowess, and deepening your cultural pride. You celebrated one another for hard-earned accomplishments and supported each other through unforeseen challenges. You learned to adapt to change, and through it all, you shone. You are a star. It is time, it's your time to light up the world. Join the constellation of community, illumining the way for those who need your light in the darkness. Walk confidently into this, your season, because you are ready. You are equipped, you are prepared, you are loved. Receive St. Ignatius's prayer as a charge. Go forth and set the world on fire. Hoya Saxa.